Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We just witnessed a 25-minute shellacking from the Flash Wolves as they took down SuperMassive in game number 1 of this best of 5 series. We're about to get into game number 2, Stress. What's the first thing we can expect to change in Champions Select?
I think you could put up a big sign that says ban Lee Sin against Casa. That's like a pick you don't want Casa to ever play, but I guess in a best of 5, you just go, should we test it for ourselves? Yes, let's give it to him one game. Well, on the plus side, SuperMassive are now on blue, which means if they don't ban it, they can first pick it if it is in fact what they want to do. But I think maybe swap out the Malzahar ban from the last game, put in the Lee Sin, force Casa onto like a second-tier jungler for him, which typically is still very good. So,
and we kind of talked about it during the break. Graves made a lot of sense for SuperMassive because he's able to shut down Casa's early game prowess, where he'd like to get straight into the jungle and try and find SuperMassive and take him down nice and early because he just farms so well, clears out the jungle. But you were telling me that lasted a whole 5 minutes and then just didn't work anymore.
That's the problem. Is like the Graves may have done okay into Casa, but Casa was having much more impact than just being a jungler in the champion in itself. He was into the lane, getting engages started when he needed to be, and SuperMassive was a little slower on that. That's why I want to see a change to the jungle matchup, but I still think Casa has so much still to play. Like, he's played a lot of Kha'Zix, he's played Rengar, Elise, like, these are all junglers that can do the same type of thing. So maybe it's not as simple as ban Lee Sin, win the game for SuperMassive.
On top of that, we've only seen Fabulous play 3 champions this tournament. One of them was a Jace top lane, but that was in their match against Red Canids, which didn't really matter, and everyone was going for funky, strange picks. Other than that, it's just been Galio, which was banned out by Flash Wolves last game, as well as Nautilus, and picking Nautilus into MND didn't work out the first time round.
So I like the Syndra and Caitlyn, the Syndra and LeBlanc presence out of SuperMassive. Take away some of the blind pickable mid laners for Maple. Now we have to ask the question, will Flash Wolves still ban Galio? Because we know SuperMassive, we're in a group that first picked Galio a lot of the time in playing stage 1. So that may be the priority, but if they do that, obviously they give over so much pace to the Flash Wolves when it comes to their jungle. That's a ban against the Misfortune support, which indicates Flash Wolves still want priority, whether it's the Zyra or the Malzahar that was likely to be available.
SuperMassive seem like they don't want to first pick Zyra, so it forces a ban out of SuperMassive.
Which is an interesting one, because we kind of feels like these two teams are locked in the meta where we had Misfortune, Zyra, Malzahar, and that was it. Now, of course, you can play Lulu, you can play Karma, you can play all of these other champions. So basically, if SuperMassive don't pick the Malzahar here when the Galio is still available, maybe we'll see Flash Wolves end up taking it for themselves, but I like this adjustment. You say, okay, we know what you're trying to do, let's adjust things. You're likely not to pick the Galio, so we'll let you take Malzahar, we'll let you take the jungle, we'll take a solid bot laner, and then pick up the Galio maybe later.
Yep, Sakama is picked up by SuperMassive. Flash Wolves look like they want to pick up Malzahar. Previously, this lane used to do really well for Malzahar when his Voidling spawned instantly. Now that it's on a 0.5 second spawn time, the Q from Karma still can hit Malzahar before he can react appropriately.
Not quite as deadly. We'll also see what SuperMassive play around it, because they don't have the option for the Caitlyn. The Ashe would be available if the Lee Sin gets locked in here, which I think, again, would favor SuperMassive. We know that Flash Wolves like the Varus as well, but they take away the Ashe at this point. Again, look at this. Bot lane, level 6, fighting style out of Flash Wolves. Happened in the last game, you pick a roaming mid laner, you pick a jungler that can get there. Suddenly, you've got a bot lane party.
And again, very high push potential coming out from Flash Wolves' bottom lane, which is very crucial in how they won their, or how they were so dominant in their domestic run in the LMS. SuperMassive decided to pick up Graves as their jungle of choice with Varus, which is kind of expected from them, but that does leave Lee Sin open, which Flash Wolves did not pick up in first rotation.
Right, they were trying to prioritize their bot lane. I think the Lee is likely to get locked in here, unless they want to take Talia for themselves. I think the Lee is a more beneficial pick here, because while Talia is likely to get banned out by SuperMassive, they still have things like a Talon. They have things like the Aurelion Sol that can do a similar role for Maple from that mid lane.
And the LMS region was one of the first regions this split to really start to emphasize heavily on Talia. So we should see that banned out by SuperMassive after Maple had such a good game with the champion. Tahm Kench is the ban here from the Flash Wolves.
We had a Tahm Kench top player in Evi from the Rampage team in Phase 1. I wonder whether this is Flash Wolves protecting themselves against a pivot of Karma to the mid lane. If they take it like a neutral lane and you say, okay, you take the Tahm Kench because there's Ashe, there's Malzahar, he does good into both. It could be either Fabulous hasn't shown us the Tahm Kench in the play-in stage. So that's an interesting setup, but nevertheless, I can see the rationale between Flash Wolves taking the Tahm Kench away.
Yeah, I mean, Malzahar, Ashe, two champions that get heavily countered by Tahm Kench outside of laning phase.
There goes the Galio as well, another champion that is all about protection, about getting a safe target with that damage reduction off the board. So now where does that leave us? Top lane, Nautilus might be the ban here, or Kled actually, if Supermassive are looking to pick up the Nautilus themselves.
It almost feels like if they just ban out Kled, that will be Flash Wolves picking up Nautilus, because MND has played a lot of games in the champion in the regular split.
He's also played a lot of Nautilus and Rumble alongside it, so both are options they can pick here and look at a mid lane matchup to counter pick, because you don't necessarily want to take an Aurelion Sol into every lane. It's not the safest blind pick. Supermassive would be able to counter that. And that leaves Supermassive in a rough situation. They probably have to go Syndra in this rotation and go Syndra Nautilus if they want to just take quote-unquote standard setups for themselves, not necessarily winning lanes, as Rumble can control that Nautilus in the top lane if that is where Supermassive go.
Which means if they pick up Nautilus here, Supermassive will again be sacking the top side of the map. The question will be, can MMD get another solo kill onto Fabulous and snowball that lane even further ahead?
That's always an interesting question. Okay, I like this in the sense that the Syndra would be the obvious choice for the lane solidarity, for picking a good blind pick that can deal with most things. But they want to be able to hang with the roaming potential and the side lane threat. That's why this Kennen comes out as well. Now they want to try and bully out MMD on the side lane, have Ahri roam around as well, try and create side lane pressure for themselves.
Kennen into Rumble, top side of the map. No longer the AP on AP matchup. We should see an AD Kennen coming out of Fabulous. It's a champion that was very commonly banned in the first 2 days of group stage, in the play-in stage. And Naru picking up Ahri. No surprise there, one of his signature picks. Flash Wolves did not ban it out this game. And the response from Maple is to pick up Ryze.
Yeah, now that Ryze might be a surprise to quite a few people, but Maple has played a bunch of champions and a bunch of Ryze. Now, what this does basically is eliminate some of the presence of Ahri in the sense that you can lock her down, put a lot of damage out, and match the roaming potential. This also gives Flash Wolves a lot of repositioning power, and we've seen how good they are at making snap decisions, crossing lanes, getting into engages. Well, now you've got to fear that they're doing it with a Ryze, and it rounds out their later game skirmishing as well. Like, Ryze obviously scales very well into the late game, gives them a lot of power here up against a Supermassive team that really heavily needs to get ahead. Kennen needs to get ahead and should do. Ahri theoretically needs to snowball this game too, so Flash Wolves taking a bit of a step back from maybe that all-out aggression.
Yeah, Supermassive running the double teleport as well with Kennen and Ahri, so we'll probably be looking towards the 1-3-1 with Graves, Varus, and Karma grouping up and just wave clearing wherever they can. Trying to take a new approach to take down the Flash Wolves.
Well, I like that they're trying things, looking for a little bit more of a different setup. I talked a lot about Syndra in picks and bans. Of course, she was banned away. That's why, of course, they didn't opt towards the Syndra. As it was the Ahri coming for Naru, which is a bit of a quintessential pick for him. He can always play that champion. We've seen it all the way through since like 2013 when Naru was really breaking onto the scene in a European Challenger setup before Challenger Series ever even existed. So Supermassive trying to take it back with this 1-3-1 setup.
And in the last match, it was fairly even between Supermassive and the Flash Wolves until 15 minutes into the match. And the Flash Wolves pretty much didn't even know what hit them because 10 minutes later, the game was over. They were run over by a bus that just came out of nowhere. No stop sign at that intersection, unfortunately.
Are we on? Wolves drive buses.
Ooh.
That's an interesting one. You've seen the memes with dogs driving cars. Yeah. I don't know about wolves driving buses.
Well, about to find out.
It's a bit more of a freight train, really.
Yeah, if the Flash Wolf can drive this train straight into Supermassive again, it's going to be difficult. And again, the home crowd cheering on the Flash Wolves. They want revenge after Supermassive knocked out the Red Canids from the first stage of play-ins at MSI.
I think it's also that the crowd love watching Kasa and Maple play. Because I think that's one of the things that makes them such an exciting team is they always seem to have that ignition switch. Like Kasa and Maple are just like, okay, we're going to go aggressive. And then you see Betty, Sword Art, MMD just like putting a lot of damage themselves and just going along with the fight and winning them in such clean fashion. And that is what makes this team really exciting to watch. I'm looking forward to seeing whether SuperMassive now, with his different setup on the game, can actually reaffirm control of a game, perhaps.
And the crowd at the CBLOL studio has been absolutely fantastic to listen to. Always getting behind the team and make sure they show their support for the players that are on the stage. And again, this entire series, mostly we're hearing shouts for the Flash Wolves. They are the favorites heading into this match as well. And we have got this game underway as Kasa starts on the blue side of Summoner's Rift as Lee Sin, whereas Graves for Stone Mage has started on Raptor Camp.
Yeah, you can see there were 2 wards placed in the top side. Kasa trying to maybe avoid any kind of invade coming through from SuperMassive. But now that he's seen Fabulous in the top side, Ari in mid, they know that Stone Mage won't be in the top side jungle for now. I doubt it's going to be anything like going for a bot lane gank right now. They didn't have that flash down early like they did in the last lane, so I don't think it's anything overly tricky coming out of Kasa, just looking to clear up through the top side.
MND doing a very good job in his lane, making sure that every time Fabulous steps up for an auto attack, he has his flame splitter on, so he at least trades evenly against the cannon. Slowly, Fabulous is expected to overtake that lane.
Slowly and then very quickly when he has control of the lane. As soon as Kennen is at the point where he can take those auto attack trades effectively against MMD, Kennen just kind of pushes out the lane and it's very difficult to stop him.
I'm so curious to see how MMD is going to play this one. Kasa now is going from blue to wall straight to red buff, so very quick level 3 for the Lee Sin. Stone Mage slightly ahead of him, just due to being Graves, has already been able to take down his Raptor Camp and the double buffs, now working on the Wolf Camp himself.
But there's no focus on ganks yet from Kasa, of course, because you've got a Rumble that's pushing up in the top side. You've got a Ryze who, yes, he can crowd control early, but against an Ari is difficult to land a lot of that damage without having it traded back effectively early on. You can see that Naru is setting up vision control on the bottom side now. Storm Mage and Kasa run into each other, and that's going to mean both back away. There's going to be no early exchanges from either team yet. Zeitnot and Dumbledore are free to push up in the bottom side because they've seen where Kasa is, and this is a much more even footing early on.
And that's what we expect from the Graves pick of Stone Mage. Gives him some breathing room against Kasa's Lee Sin. He's actually trying to make his way towards the top side of the map, puts a ward down into the Trove Rush to keep Fabulous safe. And then he's trying to do what he can to farm up against this cannon, but quite a bit of damage coming in from those empowered auto attacks.
And now we have to look at whether Kasa does clock the fact that the only real reason Storm Mage would be topside is if he was warding. But look, Fabulous not quite respecting it. Kasa just crossed through Tribush, and Fabulous is kind of teetering back and forth between pushing that last couple of minions and risking getting ganked or backing away, and he makes the right decision in the end of it, realizes Kasa is likely still around.
So early in the mid lane, just through the minimap, we saw the Maple was trying to head back to base, hit about 23 CS, which is just enough to pick up the T, I believe. Naru stopped his recall a couple of times, recalls himself, and teleports back into the lane, so trying to stay ahead of Maple at all times. Yeah,
and that's when Naru technically sacrifices experience for a moment to TP back into the lane and all get it on the second half. He gets a good recall, gets double Dorans plus the boots now, and is able to kind of take control of the lane once again. Utilizes that TP, but early on you wouldn't expect a mid laner to necessarily need that TP for an engage.
You know, we saw Stone Mage trying to be a little bit cheeky inside of Kasa's jungle. The Gromp gets a little bit impatient with him and waddles back to his camp. That gives Kasa some time to kick Stone Mage out of his own jungle. Bottom side of the map, Zeitnot and Dumbledore are still pushing in aggressively. About 10 CS up over Betty, but he should equalize it slightly with this wave that's crashed.
And that's a lot to do with the fact that this Karma, this Varus, a lot of poke damage, a lot of push power in that lane as well. Sword Art and Betty are biding their time to actually retake this lane. It's post-level 6 as we were talking about. Like, Karma doesn't really have that massive level 6 spike that a lot of the supports, Malzahar, the Zyro we saw in the last game, it's going to be Betty and Sword Art going aggressive that turns that lane back in favor of the Flash Wolves. And you can see Naru now having to carefully play in the lane. They don't have vision on where Kasa is, so just has to be aware of where they could be on the map.
Little does he know, Kasa was waiting in the wings of that mid lane, but Naru has hit level 6, will be slightly safer. with his triple dash available. Snowmage is going to continue farming up the jungle, so is Karsa. A big note to point out is top side of the map, MND was forced back by Fabulous while he had his lane pushing. So Fabulous sacrifices some experience and walks back to lane, whereas MND used his teleport. So a slight global advantage at the moment for SuperMassive. This bottom side of the map, Zaino and Dumbledore still taking a lot of harass from this Ashe Malzahar lane.
I'm interested to see whether MMD buys towards the defensive setup into Kennen that we've seen a couple of rumbles where you end up getting an earlier Zhonya's Hourglass. Still opting towards the Haunting guys first, as you typically do. It's interesting whether he does end up doing it, because I wonder whether they'll concede that just for teamfight presence, and MMD will just say, okay, well, I'm just going to go the normal route and put damage down in teamfights and basically just play to avoid the Kennen in the side lane, and we can win through teamfights alone.
Very similar story to game 1, where SuperMassive Flash Balls very even. No kills this time round though, no first blood for Carson nice and early. So SuperMassive must be feeling at least a little bit more comfortable. Snowmage is trying to take blue buff away for his team. Naru's being called upon. Smite has to go down, but
Snowmage, so many voidlings.
Not paying respect to the little critters there, Snowmage, but does get the blue buff, gets out alive, doesn't burn any summoner spells for it.
Karsa wasn't quite in range to be in that fight, so Snowmage gets away with his life. I like this aggressive play here. You can see the Lee Sin has been focused on farming ahead in the creep store when it comes to monsters and on experience. Already level 6 is Karsa. That is quite a quick spike now for Karsa. If he can get into the mid lane maybe, that would be one option, but he's just content with taking camps away for now. He's waiting to see where the Graves is on the map.
Karsa was spotted heading into this camp, but SuperMassive were not quite sure where he was. So he takes away a couple of small raptors, but Snowmage picks up the rest. And we'll hit level 6 as well. Meanwhile, top side of the map, MMD is doing a fantastic job against that Fabulous.
Yeah, he is still taking advantage of this Rumble strong laning phase, trying to deny as much CS as he can. You can see as Fabulous moves forward to try and hit it, Electro Harpoon comes out. And that's what's maintaining this advantage of about a wave and a half in favor of MMD. But I want to commend SuperMassive for now for the early game jungle presence they've put out. One ward just died, but they've had a triangle of wards all the way through the bottom side of the Flash Wolves for quite some time, and it allows them to play around where Karsa is on the map. Karsa hasn't been playing aggressively because the opportunities haven't necessarily presented themselves so far.
Karsa now is going to be moving straight into towards Snowmage's jungle, looking to take blue buff away for himself. Calling upon Rise, Fabulous might force him to try and smite this one, but Karsa looking to try and kick him back, gets stunned up, resets the blue buff crucially.
Yeah,
this play from the Flash Wolves.
That was nice out of Fabulous, just maintains at least a little time for that blue buff to reset. That was a nice response from Karsa. The fact that they had seen Stormage on the bottom side of the map had been stood on a ward in Tribush for a while. So this does benefit Naru somewhat. Will allow Naru to maintain some of the push in mid lane. It's difficult to push in a Rise, but nevertheless, Ahri can wave clear fairly effectively, I mean, as this game continues.
Maple didn't get his blue buff as well. That was stolen by Snowmage. So his tier will be stacking slower. Karsa's losing out on experience.
But there's an arrow coming mid lane soon. Betty is level 6. I'm stuck in Europe. Casting Rock out apparently, but Betty has that opportunity. Dumbledore is just the one.
Here's the target, locked down already by Sword Art. Gives a clean first blood kill for Maple.
Can't
Upside of that though, MND has been jumped on. There's a flash from Snowmage trying to get on top of the Rumble. He has used his flash away. Fabulous throws out another shuriken and returns the kill, but in the top lane this time.
A good response out of SuperMassive. They were kind of anticipating the Flash Wolf engage somewhere from Betty and Sword Art. They get onto Dumbledore, get a beautifully chained set of crowd control, but I'm glad to see Stormage heading to the top side, trying to get as much damage down as they can. They take down MMD, and now you get to see the strength of Graves. This tower is only just getting taken down by the Flash Wolves, whereas how far ahead are SuperMassive? Maybe not quite as far as you would expect. MMD TP's in. This will go to the Flash Wolves eventually.
Yep. First blood, first turret picked up by Flash Wolves. Dumbledore just trying to charge in to stop it. Not enough. So the pick for the Flash Wolves benefits them significantly as Dumbledore just gets spotted out of lockdown for ages.
That's one of the easiest setups that Sword Art might get from Harold. He wasn't forced to flash or anything, but look at the exchange. MMD manages to get it. The equalizer out, it doesn't do too much damage, doesn't do too much, but the reason they can't push, you could just catch a glimpse of it at the end of that exchange, was that MMD had already pushed out all of the minions in favor of Supermassive, so there wasn't a minion wave pushing up to the top tower. That delayed Stormage and Fabulous getting up to the tower, and that's why Flash Wolves get tower first blood.
Yep. Now the question is, can Supermassive respond with a turret of their own while they're at this gold deficit? Because if not, got Flash Wolves will slowly once again start to bleed out Supermassive. And again, sitting nice and comfortable, just 1,000 gold behind, but 15 minutes in last game is where Flash Wolves kicked off their rampage. Could expect them to do the same thing as we're approaching 12 minutes into this match.
It looked like Castle was about to kick off Stormage at that point. That's the second Q that connects to him, but you're right, they took a moment and then said, okay, well now we know we can go aggressive. We've reached our item break points. Not necessarily the same for this game. Betty does have the Blade of the Ruined King completed. MMD still needs more time.
Oh, that's a flash forward though, onto Stormage. Arrow connects with the double doge as well. He gets locked down. It's a 2-for-1 special here for the Flash Wolves.
Yeah, Betty gets the buy one, get one free on that one. Shot the arrow out, tried to double doge, didn't matter, hit Stormage anyway, as they managed to take down the kill. Well, Flash Wolves, we talked about it. They take this even game and then go, okay, we know we can get the exchanges, and Sword Art's second Malzahar ult ends up getting another kill now. The crowd control layering is just very effective out of the Flash Wolves. That's something, they don't seem to waste a moment. It was Stormage first, Casa goes in, easy pickup, then the arrow hits Dumble Doge to respond, and maybe a little fortunate, but at the same time, it's good arrow positioning. You know that Dumble Doge only has one escape route at that point.
Just watching the Flash Wolf play, they really look like a cohesive unit. They don't look like they have a top laner, a jungler, a mid laner, an AD carry, and a support. They just look like the Flash Wolves. They look like a complete pack at the moment.
They do, and it scares Naru so much that he's built QSS as a first item.
He's only sitting on the last chapter.
Last chapter QSS is not where you want to be on Ahri at all. Obviously, needs to get rid of the Malzahar ult, the Ash arrow, the Rise lockdown. Maybe if you get kicked, you try and flash away. Well, QSS will save you from one of them. We'll see if the others connect there. That heavily hinders Naru's ability to output damage, which, when they're trying to run 1-3-1, is so detrimental. Out comes the Realm Warp. Rank 1, doesn't even matter, it's short range. Sword Art's trying to catch up to him. No ultimate, but they're pinstering him.
Oh no, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place here as Casa wraps around Sight. No, they even give the kill over towards Maple.
That's the impact of that tower being down, is as soon as Zeitnot is pushed far up, we talked about this in game one, Flash Wolves say, okay, we can capitalize on this one. There's nothing on the map that Supermassive can do. Let's go in with a Realm Warp, and suddenly they are in full control. 3 minutes after we talk about it being an even game, 4 kills to 1, Flash Wolves 3,000 gold up. And Fabulous can't even pressure out this top tower.
No, he can't. Rumble Equalizer lays down the pineapples and is able to clear out that minion wave nice and easy. Fabulous will try to do what he can to push this one in, but it just seems like the Flash Wolves at the moment have their number. Will eventually get this turret because MND did go back to base. But look at this, bot lane.
The Flash Wolves are like, okay, we'll take the inner, we'll do that tower trade. That benefits us greatly. Zeitnot is under tower. Has to be careful because Ash Arrow and the Malzahar ult is up. So if he doesn't respect the gap closing from the Flash Wolves, that may very well lead to another death. Same in the mid lane. You have to respect the engaged potential here because Naru doesn't have damage, does have his flash, but that's about it.
You see immediately Supermassive head back towards the safety of their jungle, right as the Flash Wolves back off from that turret. Top side of the map though. They're fighting, but nothing's going to happen between these two.
Top side of the map also littered with wards from Supermassive. Like, that is one benefit of the sense that, like, this is a team that over the last couple of minutes have been caught out and go, okay, we need to stop that. We need to put vision control down. And with top tower so low in favor of the Flash Wolves, that's a lot of the reason why these wards are up here. Just in case Flash Wolves are looking for the impact on top side of the map, but they went bot. They pushed that through instead.
And there's no 1-3-1 coming out of Supermassive. They're grouped up as 4, so it's a 1-4 team comp. Naru just feels like he doesn't have the damage to go toe-to-toe against Rumble or Rise at the moment.
That's all because of the way that MMD is at least able to contend and push the wave back under Fabulous, and Naru cannot contend with Maple. 3 kills, Rod of Ages, that's an arrow hitting.
Zeitnot gets silenced as well. Already Casa, kick, flash, double doge into the back line. Stomage trying to go toe-to-toe. Will get taken down by Sorda. Zeitnot turns one back around with the Realm Warp, brings Maple into the team fight. Already 3 members of SuperMassive have fallen. They only take down Casa.
Oh, it looked like maybe they were going to get Betty from that exchange, but Betty kites back effectively. Didn't even use his QSS. Knew that while that Nether Grasp was on, I believe it was on Stormage, he was just able to take him out, move back in the fight, and just kite around really effectively. Flash Wolves, this is, again, these team fights are so well coordinated in their favor.
And Flash will say, you want to play 1-3-1? Sure, we'll take the 3 members down any day. And here's that fight again, just straight away pulling the trigger as soon as the wall gets placed in.
Yeah, arrow comes out. Betty looks in danger, but Stormage locked down. Good protection there from Sword Art to keep everything in focus from Betty. And okay, Casa dies again, but we saw this in game 1. Trading Casa for 3 kills, Flash Wolves will always take that because Casa's impact is so significant already that him dying at the end of the fight doesn't really matter.
Whew. Yeah, Casa was straight into the back line. As soon as that fight started, Maple single spell rotation gets narrowed down to just above half health. Sword Art trying to stop him going back to base, silences him. There are 3 dashes available for Naru, but Sword Art just being a pain in the bum there.
Yeah, being very annoying at that point. Just stopping the recall, stopping any chance for Naru to maybe look towards the mid lane and save that, as that's where the next rotation is likely to come around. MMD has teleport, as does Fabulous, but you have to look at it right now. Equalizer off the Leandri's Torment is going to be a little more effective than Wits End Bilgewater Cutlass Cannon. Cannon needs more time to be able to output teamfight damage.
MMD still going toe-to-toe against Fabulous. See the gold difference between the 2 teams. This time round, it's top Sunamount that's doing well for SuperMassive. Fabulous about 1,000 gold up, but in the jungle, 600 ahead for Casa. Mid lane's a massive lead for Maple, as well as a small lead for Betty in the bottom lane.
And importantly, when you look at combat effectiveness right now, yes, he's 1,000 gold up, but it's all pretty much in his inventory. There's a 700 gold disparity of gold currently in waiting to buy items. So Fabulous, his lead isn't that much effective. Also, he's building towards side lane presence. This isn't the AD carry style Kennen that we have seen top laners play, where you go the Hurricane after the Blade of the Ruined King, and as Reckless would build the Frozen Mallet on top of it. So
here they go again, though.
Because now it's 3 versus 1 on the side lane.
Early flash from Fabulous still gets locked down by the Moby Boots from Sword Art. He tries to use the Slicing Maelstrom, but not even the Thunderstorm's enough to ruin Flash Wolf's day.
Watch this. If a fight starts mid lane, MMD's coming with a TP. As we're talking about it, SuperMassive think they can capitalize, and in comes the rest of the fight. Equalizer is available.
So is the arrow from Betty. Decides not to pull the trigger just yet, but everyone collapses. They try to go down MMD, but look at the choke point. The Pineapples are raining down the pain on the SuperMassive. They will be able to take down 1 member, but they lose 2 straight away. Flash Wolves just look unstoppable.
Realm Warp to the bottom lane, TP into mid. Flash Wolves, they're going under the tower.
What? They're diving 2 turrets deep. Maple's taking this one up. The Flash Wolf from Naru gets Casa. He might pay for this one with his life. Kicks away Zeitnot. Tries to follow up with the Sonic Wave. A teleport will come in from Fabulous. Gets silenced as soon as he gets into this lane. Flash was a little bit over-aggressive, but somehow still lived to tell the tale.
Well, SuperMassive at least are able to deny a mid-tower push from that as well. That's fairly significant, as Flash Wolves would have been looking to advance their control on the game. Still heavily goes in favor of the LMS representatives, but I mean, SuperMassive, it's a nice little response. They're able to delay, but it's not enough to reaffirm control on the game.
And now, 20 minutes into the match, Flash Wolves 5,000 gold up ahead of SuperMassive.
With a 6-kill rise, that's terrifying at this point in the game.
8 stacks of his Rod of Age complete with Saracen Braves ticking. Here's that teleport from M&D and the flank that Flash Wolves are trying to look for.
So this is a dangerous play from SuperMassive going into this choke against what is essentially a near-perfect equalizer. But Maple and Casa were a little slow to get to the exchange, and that allows Zeitnot and Naru to back away. Now comes the time where perhaps the Flash Wolves should rethink this, but they think they're so far ahead that they can go for it. And absolutely, if the execution is ever so slightly better in their favor, they can probably get another kill or 2 here. But Casa kicks, doesn't quite follow up with the Q because he has to sidestep the damage from Ari. It may very well have been the cooldown as well. So couldn't do that combo where you kick into Q. Would have been enough to kill Zeitnot, but nevertheless, now there's another Dragon going in their favor. You saw the stat line of how well they play with a lead. 29-1.
That's their biggest lead they've had. That's the number of times they lead at 20 minutes. And then no exceptions so far internationally. 2 games against SuperMassive, leading at 20 minutes as well.
The difficulty is it's very hard to dissect a team like the Flash Wolves because it's not like they play one style and only one style. So you can't really outdraft them in that respect. It's about anticipating the speed at which Flash Wolves will group on you and reacting to that before it actually happens. And that's where we've seen the teams take advantage of Flash Wolves when we've seen them face teams like SKT. It's harder to make those snap decisions against a team that's that solidly together like SKT are, but for most teams, it's so difficult to be in the right spot at the right time 100% of the time.
Flash was taking this game a little slower than the last one, but still very commandingly ahead at the moment. SuperMassive, they've built 3 Quicksilver stashes in this game already. They want nothing to do with the crowd control lockdown that Flash Wolves bring to the table.
But that now puts, like, if you imagine the gold leads, that basically is like an extra 3,600 gold that SuperMassive have that is not in combat stats, which QSS is a great deterrent, and it can save your life, but it doesn't benefit you that much overall when you look at, like, the power of fighting. All it means is Betty's going to fire an arrow, that's going to hit, you'll QSS out of it, and suddenly Sword Art jumps on you with Nether Grasp, and you're dead anyway at that point. So that's a lot of gold in protection right now that even accentuates this aggressive Flash Wolves. They can just keep fighting.
And it seems like SuperMassive are trying to run their 1-3-1. Fabulous is in the bottom lane against MMD.
Here comes the Realm Warp again, same thing.
Straight into the back lines. Maple is behind Fabulous, is going toe-to-toe against MMD. Might get a kill first. Almost!
Whoa.
But the Scrap Shield saves his life, and Maple will run through the minion wave to pick up a kill for his team.
Again, it's the Realm Warp down into the bottom lane, exact same play. This time, you can see Kennen has the advantage in the straight-up 1 versus 1, but Fabulous couldn't really kill him fast enough before Maple arrived. But now SuperMassive have the respect for Flash Wolves in the sense that the last time that happened, they tried to push up mid. Well, now they know they can't do it. They kind of sit back after pushing the wave only, take small advantages of vision control, but that is going to go back in favor of the Flash Wolves as soon as they're back out on the map. All MMD has to do, push this top wave out, in go Sword Art, in go Casa, they take control of the Baron Pit, and suddenly you're back in the same position.
Flash Wolves are dissecting this 1-3-1 team competition that's been drafted by SuperMassive. MMD catching sideways from time to time. Maple ganking whichever lane he's in. Snowmage almost able to catch up Maple. I don't even think that would be a fight he'd want to try and take.
I was going to say, I don't know whether, you know, sliding towards a 7-0 Rise at that point, who casually would just be able to 1v1 you down.
Because that's a 3 levels up over you.
That's maybe not exactly what you want at that point, because that would have started the Baron Flash Wolves, realistically.
He tried, though. He did try. I would have liked to see the fight. Unfortunately, we don't get it. But still 44,000 to 38,000 gold. Flash Wolves still leading commandingly, and Maple has got to fight towards Fabulous. One spell rotation, he's at half health. Big shield coming up the Rise. Fabulous just farming up the minion wave. Eventually falls to Maple. He is a monster!
That's not a fair fight at all. Fabulous didn't even use his QSS because he's like, okay, well,
he's got
nothing's getting me out of this. Yeah, 4 QSS already.
Oh, Dumbledore's got an old Magic Mantle. That'll be a QSS, won't it?
It could be. Could very well be. At which point, Flash Wolves, I mean, they're pinging the Baron already. Fabulous down for 24 seconds. Has TP, but I don't really think it matters because outside of a catastrophic mistake from the Flash Wolves here, Stormace is going to have a real tough time getting into this Baron.
Realm Warp already being used by Flash Wolves. Where's it going to take the 2? Right behind SuperMassive. Double Doge is going to be the first to fall in this fight. Snowmage going to be able to flash away from the enchanted Crystal Arrow. Naru trying to dash around. Exhaust being used. Good equalizer cutting off the retreat path. Sword Art will flash back to the safety. Castle jumps on in with Betty to pick up a kill. And Maple deep into the backlines. Flashes with the flash to get another kill. And the Wolf back tear apart SuperMassive piece by piece.
I mean, the consolation prize, a tiny one in getting mid tower from the back end of that fight, but SuperMassive just not really prepared to take these fights. MMD is going to go defend the mid-tower push here. Maple is in behind them. Sonya's defends against Fabulous, slicing Maelstrom, and Flash Wolves finishing the Baron, chasing down 2 members. Everything going in the way of the LMS representatives.
Maple, though, is trying to wrap around Fabulous and Zeitnot.
Oh, is there a blast cone then? No.
There's none! No summoner spells available for them either. Maple just waiting Louise. MMD's coming down as well. Supermassive stand and deliver, but can they stand and deliver against these two? Zeitnot will try to flash. He will lose his top laner first. Can't even take down MMD with him. And Maple just gives him another uppercut to pick up more kills for the Wolves.
They were trying to just get 1 kill out of that. Say, okay, just rush him down, kill him before the Maple arrives. And suddenly Rise shows up, the 2 versus 1 is complete. Realm Warp into the backline, right onto Dumbledore. No way of him getting out. Count the QSSs, there's one from Stormaged already. He flashes out, but it doesn't save him, because in comes Stormaged right now. In comes Sword Art, I should say. Gets onto Stormaged, first kill. Naru flashes with the QSS as well, tries to save his life, but not really anything he can do. The lead is so much in favor of Flash. Also flashed into it!
But Costa's right behind. Supermassive did not expect the surprise lead steer from downtown. 2 kills already. They just don't stop the aggressions. Flash Wolves never stop.
It is impressive at the pace at which Flash Wolves get a lead and look to close the game. Baron already, 2 people dead, Inhib going down. They might just start one more fight and be done with this game.
Flash Wolves look like they want to try and end the game here. MMD is going to be backing off, trying to chase Stomage away inside of his own jungle. The rest of the Wolves ushering in Baron buff minions. 3 seconds on Double Doge, but 15 seconds on Naru. Flash Wolves are trying to push for the win.
Maple is 7 levels ahead of Dumble Doge at this point in the game. There is no one that can trade against anybody from the Flash Wolves, and that's game 2 in the books.
Rumble's able to take down 1. Maple's chasing down the Doge himself, gets another kill. Slicing Maelstrom's not going to do anything to the Wolves. As you can hear the crowd chant, Flash Wolves, as they charge on towards the Nexus. A double kill is picked up. They flash the icons together as the Nexus explodes. They're now at match point against Supermassive.
It may have started closer for the Flash Wolves, but that ends maybe more devastatingly than game 1. 12-0 on the game for Maple on this last pick Rise. They just executed beautifully, catching out Fabulous on the side lanes, constantly fighting as soon as they're taking those early skirmishes past about 10 minutes. And Supermassive had no idea how to contend with it.
Yeah, it seems like Flash Wolves just hit Supermassive where it hurts the most, which is in the mid game. They hold on even to about 13 minutes and it just all falls apart.
And I've got to give credit to Supermassive. They tried to contend with it. They tried to fight for vision and set up side lane fights and try and push mid lane, but it just is not enough when Flash Wolves are that clean, that crisp. It's so difficult to contend with that type of play.
Yeah, and unfortunately, with the wise words of Yoda, do or do not, there is no try. Supermassive are now facing match point against the Flash Wolves. But for now, to check in with that game, let's send it back to the analysts at the analyst desk.
Thank you, Fish. Of course, yet another incredibly dominant Flash Wolves victory. I feel like we're just turning into the Flash Wolves appreciation desk, but they are absolutely crushing the competition right now.
They've got like really powerful lights on those walls right now because it is very difficult for Supermassive to see a light at the end of this tunnel because things are getting rough. I have no idea where I went with that, but I made it work.
And you're pointing dramatically. You got it. We'll just keep talking, Betty.
So,
pretend.
In terms of the draft, what we saw was a shift. The Malzahar was not banned away this time. Instead, the Zyra was. So Supermassive very much saying, you know what? We think that we can handle it. We think we've got an answer, especially by getting themselves Lunar rotation on the Karma. Sword Art is pretty good on Malzahar. I feel like there was a reason why they banned it in the first time round. And then they're like, oh, no. He's really good at this champion. And he did a lot of work that game.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, when you look at the bans, if Zyra was that big of an issue, maybe you just have to give them Syndra. There are at least counters to that Syndra, right? And when you look at the counters to a Malzahar, we were talking about this before, the answer is usually a QSS. You can't go cleanse against it. They've got an Ashe. You want cleanse, but you have to go QSS now. And if 4 people on your team are building a QSS, you're investing 5,200 gold in a losing game.
Yeah, let's look at this. They had 7K deficit. 5,200 gold into QSS is 12K down. I mean, of course, the QSS does give you some relevant stats, but that is not the investment you want to be making. This was absolutely brutal.
The best way to give an example for you is a QSS is a BF sword. And if you're winning the game and you buy a BF sword, the opposing team is building a QSS, one of you does more damage, even if you're not dying to the Malzahar. But they were still dying to the Malzahar.
Yeah, unfortunately. But of course, Malzahar was so impactful, we thought it'd be a good idea to put together some Acer replay footage of the Ashe and Malzahar together to really show you how key they were into getting this game going in favor of the Flash Wolves.
The thing that I really enjoyed was the fact that every time Malzahar found a pick, the Ashe arrow was not far to follow. And this play I loved because the Ashe arrow wasn't even aiming for Karma. They were trying to set up onto the Graves, and then it just happened to land by coincidence. So really constant setup from the Flash Wolves. And this is just a good demonstration of, again, their ability to set up vision and then find these picks all across the map. And here, this was arguably a bit of a misposition, rather, from the SuperMassive squad, where they couldn't really find proper opportunities to use those teleports. While you can send Ari off onto a side lane and Kennen off to a side lane, and both of them got through the laning phase reasonably unscathed, the reality is every time they joined these fights, it was just too late. The picking power of the Flash Wolves was just too swift for SuperMassive to be able to effectively respond.
Once the lanes were a little bit broken up, Sword Art was actually free to roam around the map. That's how all of these plays are allowed to happen. He's free to place vision down with Casa. They have control wards down. Naturally, they'll start to find these picks more aggressively. And you will note from all of those replays we saw, the first pick successful, the second, the third, every respective pick afterwards accelerated, happened more often.
But it did feel like SuperMassive stepped things up a little bit in this game. It did not immediately go south for them. They were going even, at least in the middle, or in the early game. Level 6 was the big disaster point. Now, you brought up the Karma being a better pick for them. Malzahar feels like a bigger issue than a Zyra. Do we just see them say, hey, okay, maybe Malzahar's a problem, we ban Zyra, we take the Karma, and they can go to potentially a more even game?
But Maple went, what, 11-0-6 that game? Like, on a ride. This guy was getting kills in the early game like a madman. You want to give him a Syndra or a LeBlanc? Like, it's
oh, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, leave up the Zyra, don't leave up the LeBlanc and the Syndra. Clearly, that would be insane.
It's one of those catch-22 situations, right, where if you take Sword Art off a comfort, sure, they don't have the same sort of playmaking power. Maybe he doesn't roam around the map and he doesn't get the same sort of picks. But then you have a hard-winning matchup going in the favor of Maple, which you can start to snowball with the pressure that you're seeing from Casa already. He's investing a lot of ganks in the bottom half of the map, and now he just needs to shift those round to the mid and start snowballing Maple instead.
And he's already confident enough to pick the Lee Sin into the Graves. He's not afraid of Graves' jungle clear speed or anything like that coming out of the ganks of Stomage. But for what it's worth, and my only point that I would contest that with is, say, just try and empower Zeitnot a little bit more, right? Like, if support is still being like this big of a factor in the games against Flash Wolves, and Zeitnot is meant to be your big carry option, ban all of the support. Ban 5 supports if that's what it takes, just to give yourself a winning
You're clearly
place.
not banning out Maple. And clearly, I mean, the supports have been kind of the big factor in getting the snowball rolling. Maybe put some bans towards Karsa as well. These guys feel like the ones who are starting it off. Maple is there. He's doing his job every time. He's doing it immaculately, but it doesn't seem like it matters if it's a Rise, if it's a LeBlanc. Whatever you give him, he's going to make an impact.
And we're even seeing in the top lane, we're actually seeing a few ganks come out from the side of SuperMassive, and Fabulous. He seems to be holding his own in terms of the matchup, because especially when he's on blue side, he's able to get that favorable at least 1v1. And so if he can also get himself a strong lane, you have a favorable matchup in the bottom lane, a favorable matchup in the top, and then maybe you shift onto a more proactive jungler. Maybe you just shift onto the Elise, or maybe you try and take the Lee Sin away for yourself, rather than the Graves, who is much more about getting into the enemy jungle and stealing away camps. Like, at the moment, he can't do that. He's not even getting to the team fight phase where he is at his strongest.
Yeah, it needs to change something up.
Definitely. So let's take a chance then to look at the second replay. This is the replay, the final fight, essentially, for Flash Wolves. They already have a massive lead, and this is the point where they can secure the Baron and just start to take over.
And again, the use of the Rise ultimates, it always pays homage just a little bit to Bjergsen from the LCS when he revolutionized in part where the Rise ultimates can go. But the fact that they forced an objective and immediately Rise ultimate to get into these fights, it indicates they don't care about Baron. We're at a stage in the game where a kill is far more valuable. Individual mechanics, even dodging charms out, like, they were just leaps and bounds ahead.
And the only reason this graph looks any different than the last game is because Flash Wolves are on red side this time instead of blue side. And really, Grim backs against the wall for SuperMassive. Now, we saw TSM yesterday kind of turn up when it came to their game 3. Do you think that we'll see something similar here for SuperMassive? Do you feel like these guys can come back? I know I've asked you this before. We've talked about the draft. We talked about banning the supports away. What is it going to take for SuperMassive to find a game?
Well, what would be really nice is if the support didn't do more damage than both your AD carry and your jungler. I feel like that we talked about, or rather you talked a lot about Sword Art being the sort of silent hero, and we're just seeing it so much, and I agree with Rusty. Maybe you just have to take him off of something that he can have so much impact on, because as a player, he has been around the professional scene for quite a long time, and his ability to control his team and dictate the pace of the flow, I think is a big part of the success of the Flash Wolves.
I will say, I told them to play a little bit slow, more calm League of Legends. Obviously didn't work. I think the only thing left for them now is to go all in, pick a Blitzcrank or something crazy.
Throw it, just everything.
Go full Gigabyte Marine showed it yesterday. You go aggro, you take fights. All right, well, we might just see it. It's match point for the Flash Wolves. We'll see if they can 3-0 Supermassive to claim their spot in the MSI groups. Game 3 is coming up right after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Betty has that opportunity. Double though, just the one.
Here's the target. Lockdown already by Sword Art. Gives a clean first blood.
MMD still needs more time.
Oh, that's a flash forward though. Onto Stomage. Arrow
and the
connects
arrow.
with the double doge as well. He gets locked down. Casa, kick, flash, double doge into the back line. Stomage trying to go toe-to-toe. We're going to take it down by Sword Art. Zainot turns one back around with the Realm Warp. Brings Maple into the team fight. The Massive stand and deliver, but can they stand and deliver against these two? Zainot will try to flash. He will lose his top laner first. Can't even take down MMD with him.
The lead is so much in favor of Flash Wolves. Flashed into
Arrow,
it.
but Casa's right behind. Supermassive did not expect the surprise lead steer from downtown. And now at match point against Supermassive.